It started on a Thursday, late afternoon, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer. The sun hung low, painting everything in gold. Zena sat alone at a rooftop lounge in Victoria Island, staring out at the pool. Her drink, something pink, something sweet, was sweating against the glass. The ice had already melted. She wore a soft white blouse, open at the collar. Her braids were long and freshly done, falling neatly past her shoulders. She had on gold hoops, light makeup, and a thin smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The place was mostly empty, just music floating from the speakers, the gentle splash of water, and a breeze that carried the scent of coconut oil and grilled seafood from the restaurant below. She wasn't waiting for anyone. She just didn't want to go home. Then came the sound of heels, measured, confident. Zena didn't turn right away, but she felt it, like a shift in the air. When she finally looked up, she saw her. A woman in a deep green dress. The kind of green that made people stare without meaning to. The fabric hugged her hips and moved like water around her legs. She walked past the pool with ease, chin lifted, no rush, no hesitation. Her skin was bronze-toned, glowing in the sunlight. Her long legs moved like they knew exactly where they were going. She paused near Zena's table. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, one brow raised, voice light but certain. Zena glanced at the empty seats all around them. Then she smiled. "Sure." The woman slid into the chair, crossing one leg over the other. Her nails were painted wine red. Her perfume was soft but sharp, floral with something darker underneath. "I'm Lami," she said, offering her hand. "Zena." They shook hands lightly, both holding eye contact just a second too long. Not awkward, curious. The waitress came. Lami ordered a mojito, no sugar, extra lime. "Long day?" she asked. Zena gave a half laugh. "Long week." They both leaned back into their chairs. And just like that, something settled between them. Not friendship, not yet. But something warm, familiar. Like they'd met before in a different life. They talked. Nothing deep at first, just light things. Shoes, travel, bad dates, Lagos rent. Zena said she used to paint before she got married. Now she barely touched a brush. Lami said she did fashion stuff. No details, just a shrug and a smile that said, "Don't ask too many questions." They ordered wings and shared a plate, pulling meat from the bone and licking sauce from their fingers. Zena laughed more than she expected to, and Lami never took her eyes off her. The sun dipped lower, the shadows stretched. Zena glanced at the time. "I should go," she said, reaching for her bag. "My husband—" She stopped herself. Lami tilted her head slightly. "He checks on you?" Zena nodded once. "Always." Lami sipped the last of her drink. Her lip gloss left a clean print on the glass. "Well," she said, standing slowly, "tell him you were with a friend." Zena blinked. "Are we friends?" she asked. Lami smiled. "I think we could be." They walked to the elevator together. Lami's heels echoed in the corridor. Zena's sandals made softer sounds. They didn't talk much on the way down, just exchanged numbers, saved names with emojis, and promised to send memes later that night. Outside, Lami raised her hand and called a ride. Zena's driver was already waiting by the curb, engine running, cool air drifting from the open door. Lami leaned in, gave her a light hug. Her voice was close to Zena's ear when she said it. "You shouldn't have to go home holding your breath." Then she stepped back, turned, and walked away into the glow of city lights, her green dress catching every last shimmer of the sun. Zena watched her until she was gone, then climbed into the car, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't feel so alone. It began with voice notes, short ones at first. They joked, shared memes, laughed at celebrity drama. It was easy, light, a kind of friendship that came fast, like a song you already knew the words to. Zena didn't expect to hear from her again so soon, but by the weekend, they were already planning brunch. Lami chose the place. Not the usual crowd, not the usual prices. It was hidden in Ikoyi, tucked behind a flower shop with no sign. Inside, the air smelled like vanilla, butter, and money. The walls were pale grey. The tables were low. Every woman inside looked like she belonged on a magazine cover. Zena arrived wearing a beige linen dress and a fresh twist-out. Simple gold studs, no makeup, just lip balm and clear skin. Lami was already seated. She wore a burnt orange blouse tucked into high-waisted jeans. Her nails were black and glossy. A small anklet shimmered when she crossed her leg. "You look expensive," Zena said, sliding into the chair. "I am expensive," Lami smiled. They clinked glasses, pineapple mimosas, and the light caught Zena's bracelet just right. The food came in waves: plantain waffles, peppered snails, smoked chicken. Every dish arrived like a moment. Zena took small bites. Her stomach was full of something else. She checked her phone once. A message from Duro. "Where are you? Send location." She turned the screen face down. Lami didn't ask, didn't press. She just said, "You always look like you're halfway somewhere else." Zena blinked. "I'm just tired." "No," Lami said, resting her chin on her palm. "You're carrying something." After brunch, they walked slowly to the car. The sun was low, casting gold across the street. A man pushed a cooler past them, selling cold drinks. A child chased a balloon near the corner. Lami stopped beside a boutique window. The glass was clean, showing their reflections side by side. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Zena nodded. "Are you happy?" Zena hesitated, then gave the answer she always gave. "I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." Zena looked down at her feet, then quietly said, "I don't know what happy looks like anymore." Lami said nothing. She just stepped closer and reached into her purse, pulled out a small glass bottle. Perfume, thick and golden. No label. She uncapped it and held it out. "Try it." Zena blinked. "What is it?" "Something I made," Lami said. "It's called smoke." Zena smiled softly. "Of course it is." She dabbed a little on her wrist, just a drop. The scent rose immediately, sweet at first, then sharp, dark, something hidden under the beauty. It stayed in her nose even after she got in the car. It stayed with her when she got home. It stayed when she walked past Duro, and he barely looked up from his laptop. That night, as she undressed, Zena smelled it again on her skin. She closed her eyes, and for just a moment, she imagined a life where she was somewhere else. Someone else. The next day, she wore the scent again. Even though Duro didn't like strong perfume, she didn't ask for his opinion. She didn't tell him where it came from. And when he asked who Lami was, she just said, "Someone I met." The weeks that followed moved slowly, not in time, but in weight. Zena's days began to feel like glass. She walked carefully, breathed carefully. Even the way she stirred her tea changed. Slower, softer, like she didn't want to be noticed. Chief Duro barely looked up from his phone anymore, but his silence still pressed against her chest. He didn't shout, he didn't hit, he didn't need to. His power sat in the quiet corners, in the way the cameras faced the front door, in the way the staff stopped speaking when she entered a room, in the way her phone battery died faster when she was out too long. One night, she tried calling Lami while sitting in the bathroom with the water running. The call didn't go through. When she stepped back into the hallway, Duro stood at the end, arms folded. "No more long calls in strange places," he said. His voice was low, flat. She didn't ask how he knew. Zena started visiting Lami more often, sometimes for lunch, sometimes just to sit. Lami's apartment always smelled warm. She burned sage, incense, and cloves. The curtains were sheer, letting in sunlight that touched everything gold. There were always snacks, music, laughter, no cameras, no locked drawers, no one asking where she had been. "You can stay here any time," Lami once said, pulling her legs up on the couch. "I mean it." Zena had smiled, but only with her mouth. One afternoon, after a long stretch of silence, Zena finally spoke. They were sitting in Lami's kitchen, peeling mangoes over the sink. "Do you think people can love you and still ruin you?" Zena asked. Lami didn't look up. She just placed a slice into a bowl. "Every day," she said. "In every city. In every house with pretty floors." Zena nodded slowly, then said, "I used to think I was lucky." Lami turned to her then, really looked. "You were never lucky," she said gently. "You were chosen, but not for love." Zena went home that night with a knot in her chest. She walked past the living room where Duro sat watching the news. He didn't say hello, didn't ask how her day went, just changed the channel. In bed, she lay facing the wall, her back toward him, her hands curled under the pillow. She could feel his breathing, steady, unbothered, like she was a guest in her own body. The next morning, she forgot to put on the perfume. Duro noticed. "What happened to that scent you always wear?" he asked, buttering his toast. Zena looked at him. "I changed my mind." He didn't respond, just stared at her for a few seconds too long, then said, "Keep track of your spending this month. You've been out a lot." Later, Lami found her pacing outside her gate, hair tied back, face bare, eyes red. She didn't cry. Not really. But her voice broke in small pieces. "He watches me like I'm a stranger in my own life." Lami didn't say anything at first. She walked over, took Zena's face in her hands, and said, "Then it's time to stop watching and start moving." Zena blinked. "Move where?" Lami leaned in close. "Out." For the first time, Lami said it clearly. "This is not your life," she whispered. "It's his." Zena sat down on the edge of the bed, hands shaking, shoulders heavy. "I don't know who I am without him," she said. Lami stood over her. "Then let's find out." Zena didn't agree right away. She wasn't reckless. She didn't say yes with fire in her chest. She said nothing, for days. The question lingered in the air. "Then let's find out." Lami had said it so calmly, like she was offering new lipstick or a flight deal. But Zena knew what it really meant. She heard it in her bones. She felt it behind her ribs. She carried it into her sleep. That week, The perfume bottle broke. It slipped from her fingers while she was getting dressed, fell to the marble floor in the bathroom, shattered. The smell filled the house, strong, sweet, and bitter all at once. She stood barefoot over the glass, breathing it in. Duro knocked on the door. "Everything okay?" She stared at the broken bottle, then replied, "Yes. I just dropped something." Lami brought her a new one. She didn't ask for it, but it was waiting for her when she visited again, sitting on the windowsill. Same bottle, same golden liquid. But the scent was slightly different. Deeper, heavier. When Zena opened it, Lami watched her closely. "This one's stronger," Lami said. Zena nodded, slow. "I noticed." "You'll need that," Lami added, "for what's coming." Zena didn't flinch. She just closed the bottle and placed it in her bag. Later that night, Duro came home with a new watch and a new rule. "No more outings without telling me first." Zena said nothing. He handed her a box of chocolates like it was an apology. She put them in the fridge, untouched. The next morning, the power flickered. The generator came on late. The kitchen light buzzed above her head. Zena made tea, toasted bread, set the table. Duro came down in his robe. As usual, he didn't thank her. He scrolled his phone. "Tell your friend Lami to stop calling so late." Zena's hands paused over her teacup. "She doesn't call late." He didn't look up. "I hear her voice, every night." Zena blinked. "She doesn't call late," she said again. This time, louder. Duro finally looked up, and in his eyes, she saw it. Not confusion, not anger, but control. The quiet kind, the dangerous kind, the kind that smiles while it watches you drown. That evening, Zena opened the second bottle. She poured a few drops into Duro's wine. Just a test, just a pause. She didn't stir, didn't shake, just waited. He drank it without comment. 30 minutes passed. He grew drowsy, his head tilted back. He mumbled something about meetings. Then silence. Zena watched his chest rise and fall. Steady, safe, alive. She picked up her phone. Zena. He didn't wake up for almost an hour. Lami. That's all we need. Zena. I'm scared. Lami. You're free when you decide you are. Zena read the message over and over, then deleted the entire thread. In the mirror, her face looked calm, but her hands kept shaking. She opened her wardrobe, stared at her dresses, her shoes, her bags, all the beautiful things she once thought meant she had made it. Now they just looked like costumes, like props in someone else's story. She sat on the floor, took the perfume bottle out of her bag, and whispered to herself, I didn't choose this. Then she held it in both hands, tight, like a match waiting to be struck. The day started slow, not in a bad way, not in a loud way, just slow. The kind of morning where the air feels thick, where the sun shines but doesn't warm anything, where every sound in the house, running water, clinking cups, footsteps on tile, feels like it echoes too long. Zena moved through the kitchen in soft slippers, her robe tied neatly, hair brushed back, no makeup. She made breakfast the way he liked it, boiled yam, egg sauce, tea. She plated everything carefully, wiping the rim of the dish. Not because she cared, but because it was habit. Years of habit. Duro didn't say thank you when she placed the tray in front of him. He never did. The rest of the day passed in silence. She washed her hair, sorted her wardrobe, tried to nap. Couldn't. By 4 p.m., her heart was already beating faster. Not because she was scared, but because she wasn't. That scared her more. At 5:30, she took the perfume bottle out of the drawer, the second one, the stronger one. She held it to the light, watched the golden liquid catch the sun. Then she set it down and opened the smaller glass vial Lami had handed her days ago, the one with no label, just a cork and a warning. Don't touch it with your bare hands. Dinner was easy. Rice and stew, diced vegetables, baked fish, a plate dressed neatly, colourful, comforting, familiar. She poured him red wine, then poured hers. Her hand was steady, her face calm. He came down just after 7, showered, clean-shaven, clean shirt. He kissed her on the cheek, like a man who thought he still owned her. He sat, he ate, he drank. Everything looked normal. Zena barely spoke during the meal. She didn't have the energy to lie. She just nodded when he said the food tasted good. She smiled when he told her to stop using so much data on Instagram. She laughed, barely, when he reminded her to avoid Lami. Then she got up, poured him a second glass. This time, with a few drops of what Lami had given her. No shaking, no blinking. She placed the glass in front of him. He looked at her. "Trying to get me drunk tonight?" he asked with a smirk. Zena smiled. "Maybe." He raised the glass, sipped, then drank, and everything inside her shifted. She sat down again, hands folded on her lap, watched, waited, listened. The first sign came after 10 minutes. He rubbed his forehead once, slowly. Then his speech began to lag, words trailing off mid-thought. His sentences stopped having endings. He shifted in his seat. "Zena, what did I—" He looked at her, confused, his face pale. Then he stood, stumbled, reached for the wall. His knees gave first, then his back. Then the rest of him hit the floor. Hard. Zena's breath caught. She didn't move, she didn't scream. She just watched. His chest rose and fell. Once, twice, then nothing. The silence in the house felt unnatural. Too clean, too final. She stood slowly, her knees weak but steady enough. She stepped over him, picked up both glasses and walked to the kitchen. She rinsed them, dried them, put them away. Then she came back and sat beside him on the floor, folded her legs beneath her, closed her eyes, waited. Waited for something to happen, for a crack in the ceiling, a voice in her ear, a siren in the distance. But there was nothing. She looked down at him. Her husband, the man who had paid for her surgeries, her gowns, her private chef, her silent suffering. She tried to feel something. Relief, freedom, horror. All she felt was the smell of stew, perfume, and something metallic in the air. She stood up, walked to the bedroom, changed into clean clothes, then returned to the living room. She picked up her phone. Her thumb hovered over Lami's name, but she didn't call. She didn't need to. She knew Lami would come. 30 minutes passed. Still no knock. Then an hour. Still nothing. She started to pace. Called Lami once. No answer. Called again. Voicemail.
Hi, it's me. Leave a message.
The third time, she sent a voice note. Zena, it's done. I did it. Where are you? No reply. She sat back down on the couch. Duro's body lay still on the marble floor, half covered by shadows. Her hands began to tremble. She opened her phone again. No new messages. Then came the knock. But it wasn't Lami. It was the police. 2 officers. Calm, formal, cold. They asked for her by name, told her there had been a call, an anonymous tip, something about poison. Zina didn't speak. She couldn't. She just followed them out, quietly, in slippers. At the station, the lights were too bright. The room smelled like sweat, old paper, and metal. They asked her questions. She didn't answer, not at first. She kept looking at her phone, hoping it would buzz, hoping Lami would say something, anything. Then it lit up. One new message. Lami. Zina opened it. One line. "You're not the only one he ruined." Her fingers went cold. She stared at the words. Then came another. "I told you I'd help you. I did. Now we're even." Zina dropped the phone, and everything broke inside her. Lami hadn't saved her. Lami hadn't freed her. Lami had used her. She was never the plan. She was the weapon, and now she was the sacrifice. They took her mugshot an hour later. Flashes of light. Paperwork. Dead stares. When she looked at the printed image, she barely recognized herself. Her face looked hollow, not from fear, but from the truth. That night in the holding cell, she didn't sleep. She curled on the metal bench, arms wrapped around herself, breath shaking. She smelled it again. The perfume. Still clinging to her wrists. Still inside her clothes. Still on her skin. A scent called smoke. She closed her eyes and whispered into the dark, "I trusted you." But there was no one left to hear it. Zina didn't know what day it was anymore. In prison, days didn't matter. There were no brunches, no rooftop lounges, no voice notes waiting with laughing emojis. There was only time. Heavy, shapeless time. The morning started with a bell, then steel trays of watery porridge, then hours of nothing. Sometimes she swept. Sometimes she stared out the window with bars so thick, not even light felt welcome. She didn't talk to the others. She didn't ask for visitors. She didn't cry. The world had gone silent around her. She lived inside that silence now. It had been 3 weeks since her sentencing. 20 years. No chance of parole. They said she showed no remorse. They were right. Because remorse wasn't what she felt. What she felt didn't have a name. Then, one morning it came, slipped beneath her cell door, a clean white envelope. No name, no seal. The kind of envelope that feels too light, but somehow still dangerous. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside were 2 photographs and a note. The first photo was old, blurry, poor lighting, but clear enough. Lami, years younger, face badly bruised, one eye nearly swollen shut, lips split open, neck red from where someone had pressed too hard. She looked barely alive, but she was looking straight into the camera, and even in that pain, there was fire. Zina's chest tightened. Her hands shook as she pulled out the second item. A medical report, stamped, official, faded with time. It listed Lami's full name, a date from years ago, and at the bottom, a section marked Accused, Chief Duro Okonkwo. She stared at it for a long time. Her eyes blurred. She blinked hard. Number it couldn't be, but it was. Then came the note, just a small square of paper, Lami's handwriting. Neat, clean, familiar. You weren't supposed to go down for it, but you were the only one he ever let close enough to finish it. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. Either way, it's done. I'm free. Xena read it once, then again, each time slower, each time harder to breathe. She sat down on the cold concrete floor, pulled her knees to her chest, let her back press against the wall, and let it all sink in. Duro wasn't just controlling, wasn't just cold. He was violent to Lami, years ago. Xena tried to picture it, the way he held his anger behind smiles, the way he watched people without blinking, the way he made her feel like she was shrinking, even when he gave her diamonds. She had seen it, pieces of it, but she hadn't looked close enough. Lami had. Lami had lived it, and Lami had waited years, for someone close enough, beautiful enough, desperate enough. To pull the trigger, she couldn't. Xena was never her friend. She was the plan, the pawn, the weapon, and now she was the one left holding the ashes. Her eyes burned, but she didn't cry. What was there to cry for? She had loved a man who didn't love her, trusted a woman who used her, and in the end, she destroyed the only life she had to escape the one she never wanted. She folded the photos and the note, tucked them inside the sleeve of her thin prison shirt, laid down on her cot, and stared at the ceiling for hours. She didn't sleep that night. She just breathed, listened to the drip of a leaking pipe, the quiet cough of a guard down the hall, the rustle of another prisoner turning in her bed, and the ghost of perfume still clinging to her skin. The scent was softer now, but it was there. Smoke, still with her, even here. They say time heals, but some truths don't fade. Some betrayals carve themselves into your bones. Xena wasn't angry, not anymore, just hollow. Outside, Lami would be free now. She would change her name, move to another city, start a new life with a clean face and cleaner hands. She'd walk through crowds, wear green dresses, and smile like someone untouched. Maybe she'd even sleep well at night. Xena wouldn't know. Xena wouldn't see her again. But Xena would remember her. Always. And deep in that quiet cell, long after the world forgot her. She whispered 4 words into the dark. I let her in. And the silence whispered back. She let herself out. I hope this story reminds you that betrayal doesn't always look like a slap. Sometimes it sounds like laughter at brunch. Sometimes it smells like warm perfume and comes dressed in green. Lami didn't need a weapon. She found one in Xena. And Xena, she thought she was choosing freedom, but what she chose was the perfect setup. Because a stranger with a plan will always study your wounds before pretending to be your healer. Not every hand that reaches out to save you plans to pull you up.